Welcome to the desk of the Executive Director of Back Bay Mission. I am James Pennington, and I welcome you here today. And I welcome you to the coast of Mississippi, Biloxi. My videography and comrade in making good trouble reminded me yesterday of how we're called to love our neighbor in the midst of the Afghan crisis, the upsurge in the Delta variant of COVID. I thought that was a pretty powerful reminder, and so today I decided this is going to be the theme. You know, we're pulling out actually of the longest war in America. I believe this is a month or two or several months longer than the Vietnam War. So at least 20 years in Afghanistan. I don't want to be political here, right? But rather than being political, I'm going to take a spiritual, human, and at least for me, an honest look at our neighbor and who our neighbor is. And it doesn't matter whether you support the current administration or you supported the previous administration or you don't support any administration. This is really, for me, this is a spiritual and a human and an opportunity really to be vulnerable too. So loving your neighbor, by the way, is a concept and a charge, I would say, in all three of our Abrahamic religions. And actually the tattoo on my arm, if you can see that, has the word peace in all three religions' major language. Greek is peace. This is shalom from our Jewish brothers and sisters, and from our Muslim brothers and sisters, salam. And that reminds me, I think that, you know, to really be at peace in the world and to really be at peace with ourselves, it's about loving ourselves and loving our neighbor. I think what's really interesting about the three Abrahamic religions, and I think very specifically about the Christian religion, which obviously I am most familiar with, is that Jesus, the individual who's the leader of the Christian faith, says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. I thought a little bit more deeply about that. Of course, I thought deeply about throughout the years, right? But especially during this time of the arguments about masking and not masking, about getting the vac or not getting the vac, about pulling out from Afghanistan or not, and who's to blame for the disaster of the pullout. I thought about maybe our ability to love our neighbor really is based on our ability to love ourselves. If I don't love myself and I sit in judgment of myself and criticism and I'm angry with myself and I'm frustrated with myself, generally that's going to come out sideways or straight on with other people, right? With our neighbors. The Islamic faith, the Muslim faith says, serve God, do good to parents, to kinfolks, to orphans, to those in need, and to neighbors who are near and far, neighbors who are strangers, the companion by your side, the wayfarer, and what your right hands possess. I think it's kind of an interesting statement, right? Because actually Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself, love others as you love yourself. The Muslim faith says, basically, love your neighbor, love the stranger, love the orphan, love your kinfolk, love your parents, love the companion by your side, love the wayfarer. And then the Jewish faith and community says, according to Rabbi Akiva, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. That's the major principle of the Torah, of the Jewish teachings. And in the Jewish mind, the rabbi says, there's an equation on each side of an equal sign. It's kind of love God equals loving your neighbor, or loving Jehovah or Yahweh means loving your neighbor. And so I think with these world religious perspectives, maybe we have to think about, do we truly love God as much as we think we do? Do we truly love ourselves as much as we think we do? You know, we call God by a variety of names. We call God Allah, Jehovah, Vishnu, Shiva, the energy of the universe. We call God the One. And this God in every religious tradition is love. In every religious tradition, this God is equal to creativity, right? And actually equal to evolution or evolving or transformation. This one, this God, this Allah, this Jehovah, is the one who makes order out of chaos in all of those traditions, and is the one who brings peace and love to the world. Now, there's an estimated 4,200 religions worldwide. And that's not counting all the individual break-offs within those religions, such as the Protestant denomination itself. If you call yourself a Protestant, in the Christian religions, you're either Catholic or Protestant. There are over 3,000 different Protestant religions alone if you break it down. And it says clearly we really can't agree on anything, right, when it comes to religion. But we can agree on that one principle of love and treating your neighbor like you treat yourself, or loving your neighbor like you love yourself. The question I ask, though, if that's kind of our foundational principle, right, that's what unites all of us who claim to have faith, and very honestly, it unites those who claim to have no faith, who would consider themselves atheists or agnostics, is atheists and agnostics or humanists will say the very same thing, that it's really about love, and it's about equity, and it's about justice, right? Our highest calling as human beings is to be beings of love and compassion and equity and justice. And that's in all of the major world religions. And I have to admit this, and kind of compelled to admit that this morning, I guess, as I'm taping this on Thursday morning. It's so much easier, if I'm really honest with myself, to love a stranger. To love somebody I don't know. I don't know their political persuasion. I don't know their religion. I don't know their core values. I don't know if they're anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine. I don't know if they're an anti-masker or a masker. I don't know if they're lazy or driven. I don't know if they're people who say, get the homeless people off the streets. Or if they're people that want to show compassion to homeless, unsheltered folks. I realize, and I finally have come to understand with myself, it's easy to love the people I don't know. It's harder to love the people I know. But I need to get to know my neighbor. And I also say I celebrate diversity. So why don't I celebrate a diversity of thought, a diversity of ideology, a diversity of theologies? So when I begin to be in dialogue with people and find those places where I disagree, that's when my love, even sometimes my like, is challenged, right? And that's honest. And I'm assuming it's the very same for you. I also find this in the staff at Back Bay Mission, right? It's easier for us as staff when somebody walks into the Micah Day Center and we're doing an intake, somebody we don't know, that we have no background and experience with. It's easier to have that empathy and that sympathy and look at them and say, oh, this is a really difficult situation they find themselves in. But as we get to know them, we get to know potentially the choices they've made that have put them on the streets, right? We've looked at the choices they've made that has pushed them into this living situation. We look at their motivation or lack of motivation. Or sometimes we hear that they really want to take advantage of the system and they really want to hand out rather than hand up, and they aren't willing to do the work. That's when it becomes difficult to have that compassion and that empathy and that sympathy, because their differences from us begins to get under our skin. That's why, as I live my life, I'm attempting to live in a no judgment zone. Like no judgment on myself first, because if I'm judging myself, I'm going to judge others. If I don't love myself, I'm not going to love others. Now, I have to admit, I have a difficult time loving myself. We all do. Because we know ourselves all too well. It's kind of like the more we know somebody's values and opinions, the more we know our hypocrisies, the more we know what we say isn't necessarily in line with what we do. We can be our own worst critics, right? But who I am and my life experiences and who you are and your life experience, that informs how you live each and every day. It informs how you love your neighbor. It informs how you love your enemy or the stranger. It informs how you're going to embrace the story of Afghanistan according to your worldview, your environment, what you've learned up to this point about Afghani people. You're going to respond to vaccines and masking or not masking according to kind of the information you've received, according to your values. And for me, my values say James, you're going to get the shot because you want to protect others. James, you're going to wear a mask because you want to protect the other. It's not all about me. It's not all about my individual rights. It's really about our communal rights. And it's about me loving my neighbor. And even loving my neighbor that maybe I know way too well. And maybe they're totally in conflict with my value system, right? And what I believe to be truth. But I need to love them anyway. And that's why I think in all these major world religions, it not only says love your neighbor, but it also tells us to love the enemy, to love the other. So today I challenge you I hope I challenge the Back Bay Mission staff by the way I live and walk and talk, right? Because not everybody sees my inability to necessarily always walk my talk, right? Not everybody recognizes that. But at least in the way I walk and I talk in the world, that I encourage our staff here, and I encourage you to love your neighbor. We will have this incredible opportunity as thousands of Afghani individuals join America. Come to America. We'll have an opportunity to love those neighbors, regardless of their religious and their political affiliation, regardless of their values, regardless if they want a hand up or a handout, right? That's regardless of whether they're willing to mask or not mask, or get the vaccine or not get the vaccine. For me, that's the way to peace. It's the way to build a community. It's based on love and mutual respect and honor. For no matter what your religious or political or philosophical persuasions may be, no matter what your values are, but celebrating the diversity, being in the middle of the dialogue, and being challenged to love and to even like at those times, right? So today I just really encourage you, think about loving your neighbor as you love yourself. Start by looking at your self-love and self-embrace and self-understanding and how you perceive yourself. And then notice how you oftentimes kind of put that stuff on other people that you're around, right? Your own stuff. And just really get in touch with that source of love, whatever that is for you. That source of goodness and kindness and mercy and grace. Because seriously, folks, right now, we need that so much. We're in the middle of two battles, probably more battles than that. The two biggest battles being COVID and the variant, the Delta, and then this battle about pulling out of Afghanistan, right? And then this world, and it's a worldwide battle. It's not just a battle for us, but it's for all of us. And so I encourage you, as we're in the middle of this, to really re-examine self-love and love of others and love of neighbors. And as we get to know each other and we hear each other, and as our love and our like is challenged, look at yourself and look at others, and see the bigger picture of how do we live in peace and how do we live in true, authentic, loving community. So thanks for joining me today. We invite you to give to Back Bay Mission because the work we do down here is crucial. I didn't realize, but today on Mississippi Public Radio, or actually it was CNN. CNN had a special on Ocean Springs, where I currently live, which is our city next door. And they were interviewing nurses and doctors and hospital and saying, that down here on the coast we're only 30% vaccinated. I thought we were higher than that, 38 throughout Mississippi. But so it's really the time to embrace our neighbor, masked or unmasked, vaccinated or unvaccinated, just to do what is best for the common good. So thanks for joining me. Feel free to send in a check or make an online donation to Back Bay Mission. Join us Wednesday for Candid Conversations, and join us again next Monday. So peace be with you.